Ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, to all of our non-binary friends, to everyone on the spectrum and in between, my name is Ken Stacknick, and welcome to another episode of The Shutter Show. With me, as always, is my co-host,
David Marlowe.
David, how you doing today?
You know, Ken, I'm doing all right today. I figure I'd bring this up kind of at the beginning because I had texted you earlier.
Yeah, we're officially a podcast now.
Yeah, we are officially a podcast now. I texted you earlier a couple days ago about a little slip up that happened.
A little whoopsie doodle.
A little whoopsie doodle via social media that went dark real fucking quick. And I do just kind of feel like I need to call people out on this one, because while it was my mistake, it went in a completely different direction and very much proved the point that it made.
Yeah, everybody picked a whole bouquet of oopsie daisies with this one.
Oh, yeah. No, so, yeah, before we start talking about our film today, so I manage most of the Instagram social media, and our page, Shutter_show, is, because I manage it, it is attached to my Facebook. Now, I don't know if you've, figured this out from the everything about us, but we are two very progressive, liberal, white cis men. So, politically, we try not to bring politics into this podcast. We usually like to separate that because we consider this sort of a thing we do for fun, and it's an escape from all the dreadful, terrible shit, because we started it just as the pandemic was going on. But on my Facebook, that's where, if I'm going to post something political, that's where I do it. Apparently, without notifying me, Facebook decided to link this post with our Instagram page. And so, me not realizing this, I walked away for a day or two, and then I came back, looked at our notifications, and then just saw like this post, and I'm like, oh, that's not supposed to be on there. I'm like, oh, it's on the podcast page. Oh, and it had a whole bunch of comments attached to it. Some of them being like the things you would suggest, like, well, this seems very random for you to just suddenly post something super political on a podcast page about horror movies. And then I looked into the private DMs, and waiting for me there were 6 separate death threats. Straight up, like, went from 1 to 100 real fucking quick. I do recall one of the death threats being something of it's like, you libtards are going to eventually find yourself on your knees begging for your life when Trump takes office again. One threatened to dox me. The other threatened to swat me.
Dox you. We use our names.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, I don't think I make it much of a mystery as to who I am.
Yeah, no, we're pretty clear about. Yeah, I mean,
I think they meant to say like they're going to like release all of like my address information online.
Now,
which, by the way, fuck you, I'm moving.
Now, question: did they threaten you, me, or us?
I'm sure they threatened us.
Okay,
but
I'm just curious if, in particular, they threatened, or like whoever's behind this account, or like just whatever. It's my first death threat, so this is all new to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, because I try. Most of the posts I put, I kind of use the like. I talk about myself in the third person just to make it seem like it's a page that just talks about both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Precisely. My wife being one. But yeah, no. So so just be like, just want to say, if anybody listening to this happen to be one of the people posting any of those death threats, go fuck yourself. Fuck around and find out. Also, pretty much proved the entire point of the posts that ended up on our Instagram page, which was that Republicans are super insane and drink some real death cult Kool-Aid most of the time. But, you know, that's pretty much the most political thing that we've said on this podcast. And we don't intend to make this podcast political. Outside of that, sorry that I guess this political post accidentally got leaked to our page. Outside of that, maybe calm the fuck down. So yeah, just wanted to get that out there before we really got things a rolling, good sir. That I say to him whilst he's on his phone.
I'm sorry, my mom was sending me pictures of Freddie Potatoes in his Christmas outfit. So how dare you? Yeah, that's right. He had a little. Yeah, he has a little Santa hat on and a little tie. It's very cute.
No. So yeah, just kind of wanted to put that out there for anybody wondering what the fuck happened if they happen to follow the page or anything.
Indeed. So, yeah. So David, speaking of death threats, we're talking about Death's Ship.
We sure are, Ken.
The 1980 film, directed by Alvin Rakoff. Death Ship, starring George Kennedy, Richard Crenna, Saul Rubinek. It's a boat full of Nazi ghosts, and it crashes into a cruise liner. A lot of people die, and then shenanigans ensue, and that's kind of the whole movie. But that's not bad. It's man, Death Ship it's a weird movie for me to like kind of talk about because like it's not spectacular, but it is everything it claims to be on the tin. It is a lot of fun.
There is no false advertising here.
Yeah, exactly. It is like, do you feel like a Nazi ghost movie?
Yeah.
Well, it's on a ship.
Welcome to the tetanus Titanic.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that whole ship is just rust waiting to get into your body.
Yeah, and apparently they had a lot of spiders on board because man, there were cobwebs aplenty on that thing.
Oh yeah, I mean like half of this movie has to be the production design and like just the budget for the set or I believe it's a location. It appears they got a boat and then made like the boat the most spooky boat, and that's the thing that they did.
Yeah. So no, from what I understand, most of this film was shot on location. You know, I think most of the time the ships were in the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
But yeah, no, everything taking place was taking place on an actual ship, though the ship itself was scheduled to be decommissioned and completely broken down. So with that being said, apparently, you know, I figured this would be the case. Shooting was very problematic in the sense of it was not the safest. There's one death that occurs where a guy's like rolling around in a net that's filled with like bodies in the water. And apparently he just got sliced up to hell in that thing.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I think even some of his cuts got like super infected. It's, oh God. And like, even it's very interesting because it's both like they have this amazing location to work with, but there's a strangely large amount of intercutting of stock footage when it comes to things like the first cruise ship crashing into the Death Ship, which I imagine is what that thing hits. But apparently because Shudder, if I'm not mistaken, the transfer that they're using is the transfer that was taken from the Blu-ray. I think it was originally. Yeah, like at one point it was released on DVD in England. I think it was 2007. Death Ship had at the time been transferred from a print that was not perfect and contained like a few sporadic imperfections, but it was believed to be the best surviving source material. And the disc had included a disclaimer citing that the film lab that housed the original camera negative closed in the late 1980s and that some of the resources were actually lost as a result. So if parts of this edit seem weird, that's because they lost a shit ton of footage and they had to cut it together as best as they could. They were able to get a couple of deleted scenes, but outside of that, like, you know, so I feel like this is, I think it was a solid film, despite, you know, having to glue together what was left when they, you know, when the whole place closed down.
Now, so wait, all right. So I hadn't found this information. So are you saying that they're like the DVD is a different cut of look
Yes.
and okay, interesting.
Yeah. So if you were to watch, say, the DVD that was released in 2007, the quality of that, I mean, granted, DVD's not as good as Blu-ray, but yeah, the quality is very, very low. And that was because the transfer was, they were, God, what was the negative? Well, I'm trying, what was it called? The negative shop that closed in like the late 1980s. So the DVD worked with what they had. And then they
Yeah.
found more of the negative when they put everything together on Blu-ray.
Or yeah, so all right. So just for people playing at home, there's multiple ways that you can get a film print onto a DVD. And one of the things that you can do is you can go right to the negative and you can get like a positive print off of the actual negative shot on the movie. Or if you don't have access to that, you can take an already existing 35 millimeter print. And what's called like what's taken off of the negative is called an A print. And then what's taken off of an A print is called a B print. What's taken off of a B print is called a C print. If you go to the movies and you are not watching a movie in Los Angeles or New York at pretty much a premiere or maybe opening week, you are not seeing A prints. A prints are pretty much reserved for studios, are reserved for the directors, are reserved for archiving. They are reserved for creating DVDs and transfers. Everything that you see is a B or a C print. So I'm guessing that this the Death Ship print was just probably like a C print, like a print off of the off of a print off the master. So
yeah, and most likely the A print was lost, like in the 19, like a lot of that was lost in the 1980s when that studio closed down.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a whole ton of movies that have lost their negatives. Even Citizen Kane doesn't have a proper negative because it was recycled in the 50s, I want to say.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, no, they the silver nitrate in the negative for Citizen Kane was recycled, and so like there's an upper limit in the quality that you're ever going to get from a Citizen Kane copy, just because the original elements literally don't exist. That said, sometimes stuff gets discovered. Negatives tend to be a little specific. Like there are a lot of movies that get lost that are found, but they are almost never like the negative is found. It's just like, oh, finally a print of Eric Stroheim's Greed or something, or London After Midnight, which is a classic one that I had heard somebody might have found a few years ago, but it turned out, I guess, that didn't happen because I can't watch London After Midnight. So
yeah. But Ken, what did so you had seen this film previously before recommending it. I even think last night you were texting like, hey, which one are we deciding to go with? Because I think it turned out this one wasn't quite what you remembered it, but I actually ended up enjoying it, by itself.
Yeah, no. I had seen it before, and I remember it being like a fun, spooky haunted house movie, and it definitely is that. I had remembered it having a little more pizzazz, like being a little bit more like what's fun about this movie, I think, is that like it's a perfect drinking game movie. It is every single ghost cliche. It is every single beat you would predict if I was just like, all right, David, we're making a movie called Death Ship. What's going to happen? I'd pull out a gun and be like, the captain's going to go crazy. And shots of the engine and a lady in a shower covered in blood. Nazis. How about Nazis? This is not. Yeah.
Throw some Nazis in there.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it seems like somebody kicked a door into a writer's room, pulled a gun on them, and said, like, you have 2 minutes give me all of the story beats for this movie. And then they
and we're going
to
to take the guy from Naked Gun and we're going to put him in there. We're going to make him the most serious person of the film.
Yeah, I mean, which is weird because that's like the opposite of the story of Naked Gun, where it was like Leslie Nielsen before the Naked Gun movies was like an incredibly serious, well-known actor. And then everyone was like, look at that goofball. And you're like, yep, just ignore the first 40 years of his career.
Cool. Yeah. Apparently, though, like George Kennedy, who we're talking about, he was incredibly uncomfortable playing a guy being possessed by a Nazi. He I mean, granted, yeah, Nazis are terrible people. We're terrible people. And so yeah, I could see like not wanting to portray a Nazi in any way, shape, or form. But like he's being possessed by a Nazi, and even then he's just like, oh, I don't wanna. But he was contractually obligated to, so he still had to.
David, if you got hired in a role where you had to be possessed by the spirit of a suicide bomber from ISIS, that seems like a bad day at work.
Yeah, I mean, Ken, I've co-starred in a feature horror film where I was one of those, frat
terrorists?
rich frat boy, okay. Egging on a rape kind of thing. Like I have, man, when you talk about like uncomfortable roles to fill the shoes of, that is, if I ever run for public office, that will be a film that will come up and be like, see this thing you did? I'm like, yes, I know it sucks. It is an objectively terrible film. Can we please stop talking about it? Oh my God.
I mean, you brought it up.
Yeah. Oh no. Like I will always be like, yeah, no, I'll call a spade a spade. That was I did that as a favor to a couple of friends who were producing the project. They're great people, but the film itself is not something I'm a fan of. Love you guys. So sorry. But yeah, no, like in this particular case, it's so fascinating because this director, I'm blanking on his name. The producer was Harold Greenberg.
Alvin Rakoff is the
Alvin Rakoff. In the special features, the commentary, a lot of it is him apologizing and making excuses for multiple parts of the film. And apparently he never wanted to make it in the first place.
Oh, okay, interesting.
But he was really pissed that people kept calling it a Shining ripoff. He's like, that is complete and utter lunacy because The Shining came out the same year that this film came out.
Yeah, there's like no way that you could make unless that's so.
Yeah,
I mean, I can see the vague comparisons, but that's like saying that. Oh man, that's like saying that like Hunger Games and Battle Royale are the same movie, and you're like, they're pretty simple. Like they got the same stuff going on, but it's not the same.
Yeah. But that's like saying, I think you could easily say is like, oh no, like Dread is obviously a ripoff of, what's the
Die Hard?
No, not Die Hard. I mean that too.
The Raid?
Yes, yeah. Like you could say that Dread is 100% a ripoff of the Raid, but like it's not in that.
Yeah, I mean it's like saying Battle Royale. I mean, like you can say Hunger Games and Battle Royale are the same, and I would just point out that Battle Royale is just Lord of the Flies. If you really want, if you want to start splitting hairs like that, which I don't suggest that you do, because it just ends with a bunch of really weird nonsense arguments. Like, okay, so this is one of those things that I think really permeates a lot of the film discussion. So there's a real weird tendency where everyone wants to shove something into a box with a very specific name on it. And then everybody wants to argue about the specifics of the box. And I will bring up the perfect example of why this is all nonsense. David, do you know what the most popular Mexican restaurant in the United States is?
I believe you have told me this. I believe you have said that it is Taco Bell.
Yes, you are correct. So the most popular Mexican food in the United States is Taco Bell. Now, if you asked any person from Central America, South America, Mexico, frankly, anywhere that might know something about Mexican food or Latin cuisine in general, and you ask them, hey, is Taco Bell Mexican food? The answer is absolutely not, under no circumstances. That is not Mexican food. In the same way that if you ask a Chinese person, is American Chinese food? The answer is like, well, no, that's just sugar chicken. That's like, I mean, it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of a little bit like Chinese, but it's not.
Yeah,
Chinese.
I get. Yeah, supposedly.
And so, like, it's a real Schrodinger's cat kind of a situation. Like, Taco Bell both is and isn't Chinese food. Like, I guess you could this movie has far more to do with the movie Ghost Ship, which isn't like, again, is not related. Like, oh, speaking of, so yes, we alluded to this in our previous episode because we did not know the history of Death Ship and Ghost Ship, as I got them confused. So it turns out there's a movie called Death Ship from the 50s, from 1952 to be specific. Oh. And there is also a 2002 movie called Ghost Ship. These two movies are unrelated. Now, Ghost Ship 2002 came out just at the beginning of kind of the horror remake renaissance that was starting to happen. We would get Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a few years. We would get Friday the 13th. We were starting to regurgitate things that we had seen before. And
what year did Death Rising come out? What an amazing film, by the way. And the second it is on Shudder, we are talking about it.
I believe you mean Deep Rising?
Oh, sorry, Deep Rising. Sorry.
Yes, Deep Rising is 1998, starring the incredible Treat Williams and Famke Janssen. Fantastic. If you haven't seen it, it is it is my favorite spooky stuff happens on a ship movie. As fun as this is, I would actually put this slightly under the 2002 Ghost Ship.
Yeah, I think Deep Rising is one of my favorite creature feature films. I watched Rising, it. I watched it over and over as a kid. But
up there with Tremors.
And I didn't realize that. Now, is Ghost Ship a remake of Death Ship? Is it supposed to?
No,
supposedly?
No. All three of these movies are unrelated, except for the fact that they're all like ghost boats movies. All three are ghost boat movies, but like none of them are actually connected in any way, shape, or form. Other than they have the word ship.
Yeah, I think what makes me think that Ghost Ship is a remake of Death Ship is that they literally have verbatim the same poster.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. I mean, like I'm 86% sure in my mind that the reason I connected those two movies is because they literally have the same poster.
Yeah, and so the 1980s film, it was this collaboration between an American producer, who, if I'm not mistaken, Sandy Howard, who some might know from like Circle of Iron. It was a collaboration between him and a Canadian producer, Harold Greenberg, who produced Porky's. It's such a weird hodgepodge of people with different. Yeah, I think their company, their Canadian produced company, also did a movie called Terror Train.
I mean, it's not that surprising. Like, what I find interesting about this movie kind of is this movie really feels like a 80s made for TV movie, except it's got boobs in it and the cinematography is a little better than it would be if it was shot for TV. Well,
it makes sense because Alvin Rakoff, the director, he comes mostly from a TV background. He's a British director who did a lot of television, and like it really shows because every shot is very stagnant. It's
except for the shots of the Pistons. Every time we cut to a shot of the boat engine, oh boy, is the cameraman doing his business.
They really want you to see those Pistons.
Yeah, no, and and they want them throbbing, and they want them moving, and they want dynamic movement. They want to go double Dutch angles. They want to do all of it.
Let's try to have some fun with this. But no, and of course, like Death Ship, it's unusually brightly lit, which and it takes place mostly during daylight hours. But I think one of the things that works really well in this film are, the use of the tight spaces, claustrophobic corridors. Those can be all together unnerving elements. And I think the set itself does most of the heavy lifting. And it's just
great production design, great sound design as well. There's a lot of the extra stuff that permeates this movie, for lack of a better term. Like the thing that the Death Ship really gets right is like the smell, if that makes sense. Like it's not the specifics of the script or the characters. It's the vibe. It's the je ne sais quoi that makes this movie work.
Yeah, well, I like me a good horror film that takes place on a ship, be that ship in space or in the water, because there are very few places to hide. You can hide in a cabin, behind a mast, or you could jump over the side. Those are pretty much your only viable options. I would also say that goes especially for the film crew, because there is a shot that is held for such a long time, and you can straight up see the film crew hiding behind a mast. It is so funny. You can just see the camera guy, and they're all huddled as closely together as possible, and it does not work.
I have not been the guy who's sitting there in shot because we're trying to hide, but I have been the guy who I'm like, what's behind that post? Me lying down in a very uncomfortable position.
There are some really good like Instagram pages of like filmmakers, and I see them like doing the track shot and immediately running into like a PA or just like or one of the grips or something of that nature, literally just like tucking themselves up against. And it is I always take so much joy in that little piece of filmmaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to be fair, it's funnier when it happens on stage because you're like lying behind some bush prop dressed all in black, trying to be like, it's fine, no one can see me, it's totally fine, there's nothing I can do, I can't check because that will only call attention to what's happening here. I'm fine, it's fine, we're all fine here. How are you?
But yeah, it's, I don't know, it's you can definitely tell that there were problems with production whilst this was shooting. There were just working on a ship in the middle of the ocean. They were dealing with ungodly, awful, diseased water that apparently made a lot of actors and crew folks very sick. The ship itself was scheduled for was actually scheduled for demolition, and because of that, there were several injuries. There was an intense heat storm. There was also a point where they almost got caught in a hurricane. And then of course what I was saying before, it was the actor Mancuso like getting cut up by like prop skeletons like while writhing around in a giant fishing net. Like he got pretty fucked up by that.
As someone who cut his whole the bottom of his foot open, just like in a normal Airbnb in Hawaii, being on a ship that is scheduled for demolition seems like maybe a dangerous place. As someone, so the house I was staying in, often you're a carpenter, so you'll know this. Sometimes when you have two hardwood floors in two rooms, you put like a little piece of wood between the two hardwood floors. Mm-hmm. Well, it turned out that this particular piece of wood had risen up a little bit. And so when I went walking to the bathroom in the middle of the night and my foot scraped across it at speed, it took a big old chunk out of the bottom of my foot, which was real. It wasn't terrible. It didn't get infected, but like now, and that was a normal Airbnb. And now multiply that by like a whole ship that's scheduled for destruction. And I've worked in abandoned warehouses. I've worked in a lot of dangerous places. And it seems like that's a real conducive place for getting hurt.
Well, I remember you telling a story on this podcast too about how somebody almost blew up the chute.
Oh, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There was a whole time where we were about to shoot on in an old factory, and we were on top of like some sort of giant old engine or pump or something, and they wanted to cover it in candles because it was a music video. And then like I was looking around with a flashlight and noticed that the floor was real shimmery in a way that like concrete or iron floors tend not to be. And that's when I realized it was all just standing oil. And I had to be like, hey, let's not cover this place with fire because it seems like we'll all die. And then everyone was like, thank you. Because we didn't all die.
Did anybody fight you on that?
Um I had a real like, are you sure? And I was like, look down there, and they're like, oh yeah, that's oil. there's not a whole lot of like dark black reflective surfaces that'll be at the the bottom of an engine well. It's kind of like a yeah, that's probably oil, and you're like, yeah, pretty sure that's flammable. I don't really want to find out. Like, I'd rather just leave it and never speak of this again.
Oh god damn it. But yeah, I mean, like I found this film itself to be very enjoyable. Like I actually like I understand it was not received well. It only made about a third of its budget back, which I think its budget was like 4.5 million. I mean, granted, it opened the same around at the same time as The Shining, so it had some.
But I mean, don't forget, The Shining was not well received when it came out. Like the Shining, like was nominated for multiple Razzies, and a lot of people did not like the movie.
To this day, Stephen King hates it. Like Stephen King
believe
does not
he's
like
actually.
it.
I believe he's actually come around on it. He was real salty for a while, and then I believe the 1-2 punch of making Maximum Overdrive, and then also having the TV version of The Shining come out, and everyone be like, "Well, that actually wasn't as good as you said." I believe has like and like with Dreamcatcher, like Stephen King has had a lot of his movies turned into crap. I kind of don't believe that he's real mad at Stanley Kubrick still. Like,
I think he's gotten over it by this point.
He's either gotten over it or like chalked it up to like a base hit or a bunt or something. Like it might not be his favorite, but I'd be real surprised if he was still salty about it. Like, especially after like the remake of The Stand that just happened. And like there's just so much of his stuff that's been like, was it the
Dark Tower alone was the most?
Yeah, Dark Tower, the Langoliers with the borderline worst CGI creatures I think we've ever seen. Like Stephen King
Dark
has
Tower
been done.
Like, why don't we just take all of these books and put them into one short movie?
Yeah, that man's been done well, but that man has been done dirty, and I don't think Stanley. I don't think Stanley did him dirty. Like,
yeah, and I mean, like this film could have easily taken a real "what are you doing" direction. Like in some of the interviews, like with Rakoff and Hill, where they're covering the origins of the production. The Hill, Hill was describing his original concept and the changes that the producers wanted to make, which included turning the ship into the killer without any ghosts, wanting the character of Nick to be a closeted homosexual for reasons that were unexplained.
Well, I mean, I think the reasons are homophobia, David.
I mean, yes, sure, true.
Yeah, it was the 70s. There was too much cocaine, and they're like, what this movie needs is to hate gay people in a killer boat. Yeah, like that's how this movie was created, for sure.
And then someone said, why don't we just put Nazis in it?
I did not
there
see
you
that
go.
coming.
Now you're cooking with oil.
Absolutely.
Also so Ken at one point, completely separate topic, Ken at one point gifted us some amazing olive oil, and we've been trying to savor it as much as possible, but now the peppers that you put in there have really sunken into it. So anytime I cook with it now, Katie just gets like this hilarious like seizure of sneezes. like over and over. It has become that hot now.
Yes, excellent.
Sorry, I had to mention that. I was
yeah,
looking at it,
yeah.
my ADD took over.
Yeah, no, totally fine. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, flavored olive oil, excellent Christmas present for friends and family. Just take any good particular olive oil of your choosing. Make sure it's real olive oil, and just go ahead and put whatever ingredients you want in. I like to put some peppers and let's see, usually some Thai chili peppers, maybe some poblanos. I'm sorry, not poblanos, some serrano peppers, and put those in there, and then go ahead and simmer that with some garlic and some rosemary for about 20 minutes, and then strain it all out. Put it in a bottle, and it's delicious.
Love it. But yeah, so that's pretty much most of what I wanted to talk about for this film. Ultimately, like we don't discuss a film unless we want to recommend it to people. I do highly recommend that folks, take some time, check this out. I know this is not the most Christmassy of episodes for us to release literally on the day before Christmas Eve, but
there's like 3 movies we could do, and we did rare exports last year, and Silent Night, Deadly Night kind of sucks, and most of the other Killer Santa movies kind of suck, and they're not really on Shudder. So sorry, we're doing just the normal stuff that's on Shudder because that's that. But I will say this, David, as we are getting the show, we're going to give the fucking our listeners, we're going to give them a gift because they've been sleeping on some movies. And I have decided that next time we're doing one of 2 bangers, and both these movies just absolutely rule. And the audience has rejected them before. And I'm just
multiple times.
Yeah, no, yeah. I am forcing this on the audience because it is a Christmas miracle, and it is our podcast, and we can do what we want. So, ladies and gentlemen, next week you have a choice between Psycho, Gorman, and Brotherhood of the Wolf. Okay? Both of those you have rejected before, but they are back because they are awesome. And part of our job here at the Shudder Show is to tell you that you should see movies that maybe you haven't heard of before, which is the only acceptable reason I can find why you at home did not vote for these movies the first time they went through, because they're both awesome. So I'm forcing the awesomeness on you. Merry Christmas, motherfuckers.
Oh, perfect. I look forward to it. So yes, I will be posting that poll in the next couple of days. But yeah, other than that, we might take like a week off for just the holidays in general, because I will be in Jersey with my my wife and my in-laws.
Yay.
Should be a fun time. We were planning on going around and spending some time in New York City, but then
Omicron.
COVID.
Yep.
Omicron, the transformer of the COVID viruses. So we want to play it safe. We closed on our apartment. So I starting literally on just before the 1st of February.
Wait, so you rented an apartment? You can't close on an apartment. You didn't buy it.
Well, yeah, sorry, closed on we rented an apartment. We signed the fucking paperwork.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
It is partially ours for a period of time until we decide otherwise, or they kick us out. But yeah, so the 1st of February, I will be taking some time to drive all the way across the country to my hometown of Indianapolis, where I will then reside and live until I decide, or my wife decides otherwise. But we will still be doing our best to bring you this super fun podcast because it gives us an excuse to hang out and talk to each other.
Indeed.
Yeah.
David, do you have any plugs to plug?
Ken, I sure do. You can check us out on Instagram at Shudder_show. We would appreciate less death threats this time. But you can.
Or make them specific. Choose one of us. Which one of us do you want dead? Or at least use both of our names. If you want us dead, say our name.
Yeah. Fuck around and find out. But yeah, so Shudder_show, where I'll be posting the poll in a couple of days. You can follow me at _DW Marlowe, where I get up to my regular musings, projects, and everyday hilarity with my wife. Ken, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Ken Stachnik, STACHNIK. They can find us on Twitter at Shudder Show. And most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good night, good luck, and most importantly, go fuck yourselves. And also get vaxxed and boosted. Like if you haven't, what are you doing? Get boosted, get that good up inside. Like just get all that smoke, baby.
Yeah. Do your patriotic duty. Merry Christmas.